We're back. Next subject, OTS, decision 2012. Obama and Romney, take the gloves off. Rev, open it up.
Well, again, I'm going to go on record again saying that I think African Americans and people who support Obama need to be very concerned about this election. As I said before, Mitt Romney is no walk in the park. He is a capitalist.
Right.
He appeals to a certain significant portion of Obama's base. That's Wall Street,
Right.
and even Hollywood. In many respects, I think we need to think about that. I think this is going to be a very tough election. I think that once Romney cleared the hurdle of the Republican primary, again, he is a capitalist who's saying that he can get the economy working again, and it's going to require a tremendous effort on the part of the Obama administration to turn out its base.
Right.
There are some inherent disadvantages that the president has. Well, the first of which is that he has a 4-year record to which he has to defend. He's no longer saying what I will do, but others will be evaluating what he has done. And I think he's done some great things, but we have such a divided electorate. We have such a polarized electorate where people have called him a socialist, and people are on the right are saying that he is destroying the country as we know it. So it's going to be a tough race. That's the important point. And it's going to split right down ideological lines. It could be a repeat of the 2000 presidential election, where you could actually win the popular vote, lose the election, or lose the popular vote and win the electoral college. So it's going to be very interesting.
I'm on the record of saying the Republicans is going to try to steal this election straight up and down. There won't be any secret. They're going to play with them numbers.
Well, I mean, you have to look at the fact that we're going to have a kind of a circle your wagons, because you have a strategy where the Republicans have clearly laid out the super PACs.
Right.
Now, for our community, we know Citizens Union, this idea that you can have unlimited funding.
Right.
And
Citizens
then you basically bombard the media. Now, it's a very interesting dimension that here's a person who, in the past, you would look at a president that runs and they would say, you know, this man has accomplished on a foreign affairs in an American context.
Yes.
Amazing things in the idea that they said that he may not have the basic, let's say, the arms to run and do what's necessary. And he's amazing. He's out, you know, the difference between Romney's foreign experience, no one ever talks about. This man has no foreign affairs experience. And in a global, we just came off talking about the geopolitical issues. You have to be very clear about the nature of someone being able to take you into the 21st century in the context of the globe. Romney doesn't have that. That's not where people are talking about. And they're independent base, and he does. He has a certain resonance with these folks who are independents, and we don't understand it really because he has nothing in common with it.
It's not that deep. What do you say? Obama yesterday spoke out on gay rights.
Well, that's the cultural divide. That's the great cultural divide that seems to be a big issue in America. From the European point of view, they go, we don't understand it, but you have to understand the unique quality of America. It's the historic, the legacy, the idea of where people, how they make their sense of their identity.
But I want you to chime in. I got a question for you. I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Can you tell a person of color, how does the president saying he support gay marriage help you if you don't have a job?
I think that's the problem that the president has, and he has the problem of every Democratic president. The Republicans essentially have a small tent.
Right.
They are largely a homogeneous population.
Right.
They tend to be white. They tend to be wealthy. They tend to be, even those that aren't wealthy, they tend to be socially conservative. Right. That's a small tent. That's people who with like minds. The Democratic Party is a big tent. It's made up of many constituents. You've got gays on the left. You've got labor. You've got African Americans. You've got all of these different constituents. Feminists. You've got a lot of
religious
different
group, African American.
Right. You got the church.
Right.
So the problem that the president has when he feels pressure, and a lot of those agendas in the Democratic Party sometimes are at variance with each other.
Right.
So when the the homosexual lobby pushes him and says, well, if you don't advance the cause on gay rights, you're not going to get our support.
Right.
When the Latino voters that voted for him say, well, you haven't done anything on immigration reform, you're not going to get our vote.
Right.
That's difficult for a Democratic president. But the thing that bothers me the most is that gay rights, gay marriage, if it becomes the law of the land, and I have a great question as to whether it will not. I think you have even the potential for, if not a civil war, at least a breakdown of the national cohesion around that issue. 29 southern states, including North Carolina, just the other day, have said they don't want marriage equality, as the proponents call it, gay marriage, as the detractors call it. The Democrats are now even talking about moving their convention from Charlotte, because of it was a overwhelming majority of the people in that state that said we don't want it.
But hold on, not to interject, but Red, the voter turnout was low. So a lot of people didn't vote.
You know, you can always make that argument and you can always analyze it, but the point is it's carried in I think 29 southern states. And in fact, wherever it has gone to referendum, it has lost. In fact, it's the courts that have essentially kept this in play, and some of the legislatures, and like in New York, it was Governor Cuomo doing a lot of arm twisting, and the legislature that voted for it. If it went to referendum here in New York, I doubt very seriously that it would pass in New York State. And so it's an interesting issue. But my issue is this: African Americans who have historically been loyal to the Democratic Party continue to get shuffled to the back of the deck. African Americans, when we exert our agenda, we're always told, hold on, we got to get elected. The president did not take that same position with the homosexual lobby. They pressed, they demanded, and he responded. And so my question is, if now that he's taken that position on gay marriage, what does that, I'll turn your question around, what does that do for African Americans that don't have jobs, where unemployment is still high? How does that address the needs of poor people, of working class people in this country?
He didn't say he would change legislation. All he said was he supported.
Well, that's his personal opinion.
Exactly.
But the issue is, to the Reverend's question is, what is the African American agenda? Especially in an economic sense.
Well, if you would have learned something, you want to know what we as people of color should have learned?
What?
That they put their money where their mouth is.
But that's the key issue.
We start by money.
We start by money.
We start by money. And our problem, and I talk to people, and we talk to people about this, is every other group donate money. The Jewish community donates money.
Yeah, but
so they have influence.
That's true. And
so
what you're saying is absolutely
we
right.
never, in our community, we never talk about the money factor. That's why you don't get anything, because if you don't put money in your legislative pocket, they can't get any ads.
The money is important, but I will remind both of you gentlemen that there are more African Americans than any of those special interest groups that you talked about. We could just leverage our vote. We don't leverage our vote the way it should be. Certainly, we should become more part of the money game of politics. But even with the overwhelming numbers and the level of consistency that we've shown in terms of voting straight down the Democratic line, if we had leaders, if we knew how to leverage that more, we would still be in a strong position.
I'm going to close out, I'm going to say something. It starts with our elected officials. In Congress, we have the Black Caucus. And I always had a problem while Obama was in office, they were loyal voters and did not tell them, listen, the Blue Dog said, we're not voting with you.
That's right. That's
when
true.
They should have turned around and told Obama, if you're not doing this, you're not getting our vote, because you still have about 50.
It goes back to that old saying that if the Democrats know that blacks have nowhere to go, I've always advocated for a 30-70 strategy.
There you go.
70% Democrats, if that's what we want to be. But I think we should have 30%
in the
of our
Republican
people
Party.
in the Republican Party, so that we are able to leverage our vote.
Well, let's start with Congress. Tell the Congressional Black Caucus, from now on, don't just go along to get along.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
They don't know anything else. They don't know how to do anything else but that.
We'll be back.